Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Natural Wellness Tips Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Jennifer Shaw. So excited to be here with yet another amazing guest. I'm going to introduce you guys to Kawan Glover in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to tune into this podcast, taking time out of your busy schedule to help yourself grow, evolve, and live a healthier, happier life. I love getting to have these conversations with my guests, and I love getting the opportunity to get to know them better. I hope you guys enjoy listening to them as much as I enjoy sharing the space with my amazing guests. And Kawan Glover is no different. We met, nothing's by chance, right? But we met serendipitously through a chat on Clubhouse a couple weeks ago. He mentioned in that chat a little bit about a story in his book. I decided to pick up his book, reach out. I picked his book up and I could not put it down. I read it in 2.5 days. It's a little over 200 pages, and it was in the nooks and crannies of work and life. And I was like, I have to know the rest of the story. And it's such a beautiful journey. So I'm so excited for you guys to get to know Kawan. He is a survivor. He has lived through a stroke, 3 brain surgeries. He's dealt with suicidal ideations. He attempted suicide once. He's dealt with opioid addiction, depression. He's been $1.2 million in medical debt, guys. And he's 27 as we talk to him today. So this is all in his 20s, things that many of us can't even imagine. Despite these hardships, he started his own company called Overcome Adversity, which leverages his ordeals to help others, as the name says, overcome their adversities, no matter the shape or form. He's a writer, public speaker, self-published author of the memoir entitled Favor: How Stroke, Struggle, and Surgery Helped Me Find My Life's Purpose. And he's our guest today on the podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Kawan.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here before you and your audience. And I hope whatever I say today, someone gets some value from it.
I have zero doubt in my mind that people will not get value from this conversation, that people will get value from this conversation. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And every time we chat, I enjoy it so much more as I get to know you more. But I touched on your story I glazed over it and just kind of shared that you've been through some hard shit, right? But I'd love for my listeners to hear from you. Just a quick sneak peek at like what has this life been for you, Kawan? What has it been like to go through the things that you have?
It's funny, Jennifer, that a lot of people would look at my story and like, wow, you went through all this brain surgery, all the things, the physical trauma that's been done to your body. And it isn't, the most difficult part isn't in the surgeries or, going through all those things. It's the moments after the recovery, the times when you find yourself isolated and alone and you feel like no one understands. It gives you a whole new perspective on what it means to really be in healing, really being focused on your recovery. And it just gives you, I'm really big on perspective, gaining perspective to understand what it's like to be in somebody's shoes that may be disabled or may have had traumatic brain injuries, or maybe to be dealing with challenges like depression, anxiety. It just, when you go through those things, you have a whole new vantage point on life. So it's been the greatest gift I've ever been given, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
I remember saying that to the first few people once I got to that place after my accident. So because we've talked about this, I have my spinal cord injury, my brain injury, very different experience than you went through, but traumatic, right? And we all have our traumas, we all have our journeys. But I get asked, and I've been asked, and I always say that if I could go back and not cross that street on my bike, not get hit by that car, would I do it? Would I change it? And the answer is no, because I am who I am because of that experience. I now get to impact people's lives because of everything that I've experienced, everything I've learned, everything I've grown through. And one of the things you said as you were sharing a little bit about your story is this idea of perspective, and it's not actually in the moment. It wasn't for me the moment I got hit by the car. It wasn't for you the moment you had the stroke or the brain surgery. It was the battle mentally after. And you talk a lot about that in your book. you talk about what it was like to be in and out of consciousness in the ICU, to move to a rehab facility, to be so young in a rehab facility, um, and have to battle those thoughts day in, day out, and most specifically at night, right? I'd love for you to share a little bit about, you know, how you went from being in your 20s in these really dark places and like mentally, to saying like enough is enough, like I'm going to change this story. Like you had spoken to me about this idea of what we say in our minds is so important, right? More than what we say out loud. And I'd love to just kind of powwow on that for a little bit, because I think there's so much value in what you've gained in knowledge from there.
So another thing people probably don't know about me is that in the literary space, I'm starting to delve into fiction, and those are things you have to tap into the creative parts of your mind. And the thing about you think about horror movies or tense situations, you may have a fear of heights or something like drowning. And when you see those scenes in movies, it's not the fact that what you're seeing on screen is bothering you. It's the image that your mind is creating, or the conversation, or the it's creating a sensation that you're actually going through it, and that's the power of your mind. So when I was in those dark rooms at night, and I was just creating this scenario where I'm gonna get up from this bed and never be the same person. I'm in the prime of my life, but I'm not gonna be able to experience it to the full potential. I'm creating this defeatist mentality, this victim mentality, which is something I talk about a lot lately. And when you do that, you start buying real estate in the place where victims live, and that's when you start to move into victimhood permanently. And I use my story now as a template for, these are things you don't have to do. I've been through the darkness. I've been through the mud. I want to tell you my story so you don't have to go through that, and you can easily get rid of your keys in that victimhood and find your way onto the path of victory. And it's not a journey that one takes overnight. It takes a lot of deep self work, a lot of mirror work, a lot of meditation, a lot of screaming, crying, fussing, fighting, all that good stuff. But ultimately, the solution for most internal problems is gratitude. And I feel a sense of gratitude every day.
Mm, that's so beautiful. I wrote down victim mentality and gratitude as you were talking, and I think that is such a point to highlight of like, we cannot be in gratitude while we are in victim mode, and we cannot be in victim mode while we are in gratitude. So if we can pause and we can shift from that victim mode through gratitude for whatever it be in the moment, then we can completely shift our energy and completely shift that story in our head. Have you ever seen the movie Free Solo? It's
Yeah.
about
Oh, the rock
climbing.
climber. Yeah,
The
rock
rock
climber.
climber,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we were watching that movie, and I don't, just so you understand how pivotal this is, I don't watch TV or movies, like maybe 2 movies a year and like maybe 6 hours of TV a year. Like I don't watch it. Um, and in that movie, they were checking his like fear center, and they were showing him in this MRI different fearful images that would cause a fearful reaction in the average human. And he wasn't having a reaction to any of it. And that just kind of popped into my mind as you were talking about, like, it's not actually that you're scared of that. It's that you're scared in the story you are telling in the movie theater of your mind. And one of the things that resonated with me in your book was the vulnerability of sharing your journey about coping. So you touched on a couple different things that you used as a college student in your 20s to cope. I mean, most of us can relate. Drinking, drugs, like even prescription drugs and things like that, and how avoidance, secluding yourself, like what was that like for you to be in that phase where you didn't quite have the awareness around those negative, you were like gaining the awareness around those coping mechanisms and beginning to shift that, like what was that process like for you?
I'd like to call that, and this is something I just came with a subconscious avoidance. So I was doing those things in like my mind, somewhere in my consciousness, knew I was avoiding something, and these things were keeping me away from that thing, creating that distance. And now, it the transition out of that was accepting that pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. And when you create that distance between your issues or your challenges or your conditions, you're causing yourself to suffer because the only way you can get to the graces of life is to get through your grievances. You have to face the challenges that are going to be there regardless of where you go. It's like I'm going to stuff all my problems at a corner and turn away from them. They didn't go anywhere. Matter doesn't dissipate or disappear, it just transfer state. So they're just sitting there waiting for you. Like at some point, it's going to start manifesting in your business, in relationships, in your friendships, in your familiar relationships. It's going to start manifesting in other areas of my life. And once I realized that I'm not going to get past this unless I get in front of this and I tag it and address it, then I was just like, I have to let go and just let me fall into it because the greatest things in life are on the other side of fear. And there's the difference between fear and danger. If you're being chased by a lion, you're in danger. You should run or get some type of weapon to fight it off. But if you're dreaming about getting chased by a lion, that's fear. That's something your mind is creating in the movie theater, as you so adequately put. So determining the difference between fear and danger, understanding what it is, how it's affecting you, and how you can turn around. And I think those are some of the things I had to do.
Mm. I really resonated with it because it was a struggle that I had. And when we're in those moments, right, we rationalize. And I'm speaking generally. I wonder if you feel the same way, but like I personally rationalize my behavior. I rationalize taking all the pain pills. And then moving forward, when I stopped taking the pain pills, I rationalized substituting those with the wine. And then the wine stayed for years. And then I rationalized covering my emotions with the wine and drinks. And I'm now just over 20 months clean of alcohol. And I
Congratulations.
thank you. And it was one of those things where I was sick and tired of having like a bump under the rug from all of the things that I was sweeping under the rug. Like there was no room left in my mind for me after I like swept all the things that I hadn't processed under there, and I was using those those unhealthy coping mechanisms to avoid it, right? Like you had said so eloquently, subconscious avoidance, like bam, yes, that light bulb just went off when you said that. So what were some of the things that you and still do, right? Because we still always will face fear. I'm sure when you put your book out there, you faced fear. I know in the book you talk about speaking at an event and having the fear that came up around that and having a friend step in for you and just, we're always going to face different levels of fear. But what are some of your favorite things to do when you feel yourself bumping up against that fear and you're wanting to like kind of grab onto that fear and say, "Hey, I'm here for you. Let's do this together."
I think fear typically is future based, or things that may never happen, or things that might have happened, and you're basing a future outcome on something that happens in your past. But I saw this post really yesterday that really just spoke directly to me. People see the timeline of life is linear, and you have your past, your present, and your future. But then he just divided up into three sections, and your past is based on your memories, and your future is based on your imagination. And none of those things are existing anymore or haven't existed yet. So get rid of your memories, let them be where they are, and get rid of your imagination. Those are things that may never happen, and live in the present moment. And a lot of things that bring me into that present moment, because I don't think gratitude can exist outside of the present moment. So meditation, so grounding exercise, so getting out in nature, creating a mantra, daily routines. Those are some of the practical applications, but also understanding that there's the difference between dopamine and serotonin. And that's what serotonin is provided by gratitude, that long acting, long form of joy. And dopamine is important, but I think we get overindulgent in it with the social media, with the TV, the movies, all the stimuli in our environment. Um, it just takes, gotta kind of sit back and just absorb part of human nature, and this is why a lot of people fail in recovery. It's about progress. And when people in your circle or you yourself stops acknowledging the progress you've made, you stop healing, you stop recovering, you stop growing. So making it a point to, hey, you just completed, I think we're going to complete my ninth book for the year. I think coming up. And like for me, in my head, I was like, oh, I just divide the pages up about a week and do that. But when people hear that, they're like, you read how many books already? Like, that's amazing. So with your story, like you had the brain injury, the spinal cord injury. Like people, when you say it, it's probably like, yeah, I went through that, whatever. But like when people hear, they're like, wait, you're just gonna brush over that? Like, is that what you're telling me right now? So doing a better job of acknowledging my past, but not letting it dictate my present, or you know, kind of create a framework for my future. I only live in the present and I only see the next 2 steps in front of me. Beyond that, this life is meant to be discovered. So I just let gratitude lead the way.
Mm. I got so many chills while you were saying this. So earlier today, I recorded a podcast episode that's going to air the week after your episode, right? And I talked about that idea of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and how that happens in life. It happens to all of us, right? And you mentioned that in the book too. That idea of like, you thought you were on a healing journey and then got knocked back, right? And it's a really amazing episode. I'm excited for you to listen to it and get your thoughts on it too. I think we can have a really great conversation after you check it out. But like I said, it's going to air after this episode. And I talk about 4 things that I do when I'm trying to get out of that negative, fear-based step backwards. And the first one is move my body, just like you mentioned. Get outside, go for a hike, do yoga, acro yoga, whatever it be for me. The second is find gratitude in that moment. What can you be grateful for in that immediate moment? Right. So it was move my body, gratitude, journaling, and journaling specifically about your accomplishments. What have you succeeded at thus far in life? So when you're stuck at what you failed at, starting to think about what you've succeeded at. And the fourth was grabbing my essential oils, specifically like my adaptive oil or my citrus bliss or my neroli. Those are some of my favorites to go to when I'm getting into that negative thought pattern, and just taking a few deep breaths. And it was so amazing to hear you list the things that you do to kind of get out of that with some healthy, and it's like my list. It was so cool. And I got so many chills with you sharing it. So thank you for sharing all that.
Absolutely. And I think another important one is really interrupting that thought pattern. A
Mm.
lot of times when we're in those negative spaces, we are not moving. We are not allowing anyone into the space. And that thought pattern, it's like a spiral. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So when I would work with my coaching clients, they will get on this spiral of like, oh, this is not working. I don't know what to do. And I would just like scream or do something like just out of the blue. Like, have you ever seen a purple shower curtain? And they're like, what are you talking? Oh, I just be like, all right, do 150 push-ups right now. And they'd be like, what? And then in that moment, they're no longer cycling through all those negative thoughts. They're trying to figure out what the hell I'm talking about. But in that moment of also stop that pattern so they can reset and start a new one. So they get moving. So they get into gratitude. So they get into the things that bring them to the present moment. And I learned that from Tony Robbins. That's not my original thing. Just interrupting that thought pattern is really important. And I think it's easy for me and you to tell other people to do that. I think the biggest challenge is when you're in that thought loop, when you're feeling down, interrupting your own thought stream and creating that new scenario. But I think it takes practice, and the more and more we do it, the more at home we feel in that space.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So well said. So well said. So I work with this woman, Deb Erickson. She works with women in network marketing, and she works with mindset stuff. And she's trained with Tony Robbins, and she has this stop sign that she gives us. And literally, like when you catch yourself in those negative thought patterns, like you said, like you're literally supposed to take the stop sign, like put it in front of your face and be like, stop. Like, and it's that same idea of like, like drop and give me push-ups. Like, have you ever seen a purple shower curtain? And now I was thinking, I'm like, have I ever seen a purple shower curtain? I don't know if I've seen a purple shower curtain. But it's so true. It's like having those things that can get us out of it and knowing like we're sitting here. It's easy for me. Like if I was working with a client or you're working with a client or I'm talking to a friend, it's easy for me to look at that friend or that client and say, okay, like we need to shift this energy right now. But it's much harder to look within. So don't get the idea that we do it perfectly because we're saying it, right? It's still a struggle that we deal with, and it's just something that awareness brings so much value to. So something I get asked or told a lot of the times is like, well, I haven't been through something as severe as you, so I can't relate, right? Or like, kind of using the excuse of like, well, you overcame something big, of course you can overcome the little things, right? Like, have you ever heard anybody say that where they find that like they can't relate because of the big things that we've been through? And what is some advice that you give to people that are kind of struggling with that mentality of like, well, this is all great and stuff, but I didn't get hit by a car or I didn't have a stroke?
I'm not in the business nor am I interested in comparing or measuring traumas.
Yeah.
I think you are built for whatever you're supposed to face. So I don't really care if you got your head almost severed or dropping a pencil is the worst thing that happened in your life. You were built for whatever that traumatic experience may be, and your interpretation of that experience is like I don't think I could deal with what you dealt with, and you couldn't deal with what I dealt with because we're two different people with two different backgrounds and two different experiences. So again, I don't it almost irritates me in that you try to diminish yourself just because simply you haven't experienced what I've experienced. So again, I'm not in the business nor am I interested in measuring or comparing traumas. Everybody experiences things in their own way, and your experience is unique to you, and there is a way to see the bright side of it. There's always a silver lining no matter where you go. So uh, yeah, I don't tolerate it.
Beautiful. I literally could not have said that better if I had tried. It was so beautiful and so powerful because, yes, like my journey is my journey is your journey, and everybody else is allowed to have their own. And comparison is the worst thing that we can do. To me, it's a form of avoidance, right? It's like, well, my life hasn't been that hard, so, or my life has been so hard, so you can't understand. Like, no, like your life is your life. Like, you you are the only one that can choose how you handle the things that are put in front of you. And it was just so well said. Like, we have to take ownership of our choices in our lives. And then if maybe the choice is, you didn't choose to have a stroke, you didn't choose to have brain surgery, I didn't choose to get hit by a car, but I choose every day how I show up because of that experience. And I believe you do the same thing. That's the power, is our choice is in how we respond, react, and show up each day.
Yeah, and I think comparison is when you look at the word victory, the first letter V, it's like the space between two mountains. And at the bottom of the mountain is the valley. And choosing to compare or lessen or diminish who you are as a person is a way to slide down into that rock bottom. The bottom of the V is what I call it. And at that point, the only way to achieve victory or to get up the other side of the hill is to make a decision that everything that happened to you is not your fault. It just happened, but it is your responsibility to choose every day to make it better, to
Mhm.
get out of that victimhood, to get on your path to victory. So again, comparison is a way to slide down to that chasm, that valley, but you only receive the vision for the victory in that valley, in that dark space, in that rock bottom. And then once you receive that vision, you made a decision to take responsibility, take ownership, and climb your way back on the other side and reach a new peak.
I like I hate the cheesy saying mic drop, but like I feel like that was basically what that was made for, right? Like that was just such amazing wisdom. And um yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I truly appreciate your vulnerability, your journey with with sharing all of this so that it can enlighten other people and help change their lives. It's, everything that we talked about, you just deepened the understanding of the book in this half an hour conversation. And I gained so much knowledge out of the book alone. So even more out of this conversation. So thank you so much. Yeah, I could chat with you for hours. I think we think so alike, and we want to use our journeys to help so many people. And that's so incredible. And I know that this is not the last conversation we're going to have, and we're going to keep diving and healing and helping people. I think it'll be amazing. But for sake of time on the podcast, I gotta shift to the rapid fire questions.
Absolutely. I'm ready.
Okay. Number one, what is your number one health and wellness tip for those listening?
Be careful about what the things you put into your body. And that's because 90% of your serotonin is actually produced in your gut. So that really has an effect on your mood, your sleep patterns, your attitude, and it can prevent you from getting to the attitude of gratitude. So be careful about the things you put in your stomach.
I love that. We're in my monthly membership, my No BS Wellness community, we focus on a habit a month. And next month, we're focusing on healthy eating, because truly, like, what we feed ourselves makes so much, what we drink, what we eat, what we put on our bodies, what we listen to, all of that matters so much. And yes, like you said, the food we eat has such a powerful impact on our serotonin and the ability to feel gratitude, to feel joy. So beautiful. I love that. What is the biggest healthy habit you struggle with? A lot of times people think we're perfect because we're sitting here talking about all of this stuff, but we're nowhere near perfect, right? What's something you struggle with?
Sleep hygiene.
Mm.
And the reason that is well, two reasons. One, sometimes I'll fall asleep and I got like a habit of taking melatonin. So when I don't take it, I don't sleep as well. And also after the last surgery, my bladder started acting a little bit strange, like the muscles weakened, so it's difficult for me to sleep through the night. So definitely sleep hygiene.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I went to bed a little late last night, later than I usually do, which means I crawled into bed at 10, which is a late night for me. And when I do that, my circadian rhythm gets so thrown off. I woke up at 2:30, and even with using my oils, I had trouble. I was really restless and I couldn't fall back asleep. And it's a hard thing. Sleep is so important. Sleep is so important for our physical healing, our emotional healing. It's powerful to get that good night's sleep. So I hope that you continue to make shifts in the direction that becomes easier for you. Okay, this is a fun question. What are you most excited about in life right now?
It's funny because I'm actually writing a fiction series on this app called Wattpad, and it really was inspired by my sister. So having that creative outlet outside of everything, the mental health, physical health, gratitude, and things like that, just having that little creative outlet and fit into that story, and that's what I'm kind of excited about right now.
So fun. I know you talk about how much you just love and respect your little sister and how much she helped you in your journey. And that's amazing that she was an inspiration for you to chase that dream and write that fiction series. So cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited to check it
absolutely,
out.
absolutely.
Okay. So the next question is, what is your favorite book? And I mean, obviously, like, your book is amazing. So guys, go to Amazon, check it out. It's called, just search Favor. And then if it doesn't pop up, then you can say How Strokes Struggle, or you can search Kawan's name, Kawan Glover, but Favor should pop it up. I can't recommend this book enough. You guys have to check it out. So I know he's not going to plug his book as his favorite book, but I'm going to. It is incredible. My best friend's already like chomping at the bit to read it. It's an incredible read, and you'll feel so motivated after. But other than your book, Kawan, what is your favorite book?
The Modern Prometheus or Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It's one of the first books I ever read, and I was just like, "This is a real book. Like this, people actually put this down and don't read it. Like what the heck?" And in comparison to the movies about Victor Frankenstein and the monster, the book was just like I remember sweating while reading it. Like, I have to get to the next page. Oh my god, I have to get to the next page. Like that's how powerful it was. And of course, I have other series, but that remains at the top of my list. I only read it once because I don't want to ruin it. Like I wanted to keep that first time experience of reading it. But
Mm.
that's my favorite book by far.
I've never read it. Maybe I'll have to check it out.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
I love
good.
when books bring you to emotions, like you're sweating, you're crying. I was like, there was one point this last weekend when I was reading your book on the couch, and I was like, I had tears rolling down my face. My boyfriend's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. Nothing to see here." Like, and you can like feel like you're in it. It's so powerful. Okay, I know that people are going to be interested in following up with you, catching up with you. I know we connected on Clubhouse, and from there on Instagram at Kawan Glover. But where can people find you? Where's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Okay, so of course Instagram, of course Clubhouse. I'm on Twitter, Kawan_Glover. I have my own website, KawanGlover.com. You can email me at info@KawanGlover.com. It's also weird some of my name so much, but I'm there. Um, and my number is up there as well on the website. And you can reach me anywhere. DM me on any social media platform on Facebook, Instagram. Um, yeah, just reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation. Happy to see how I can be of value to you. Happy to, I'll even send you a sample chapter of the book, or you can get it on my website. And look forward to meeting all of you. And I
Yeah.
love you all, and I'm grateful for all your lives.
So beautiful. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I can't say it enough. You know how much I love books. I read 33 books last year. I've already read 4 books this year. I got some time. I got to pick up some paces here because you're already at 9. Come on. So I got some work to do, but I feel like we're both doing pretty good. And I just, I can't say enough good about this book. It is so inspiring. So please go support Kwan and gain some knowledge for yourself and read this book. It is incredible. But more importantly, go connect with him. Follow him on social media, head to the website. You guys, every conversation you have with him is going to put light bulbs off in your head. It's going to help you show up better for yourself and those in your life. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for jumping on. I know we discussed this a little before we recorded, but I haven't had men on the podcast, and you are actually the first male interview on my podcast, and I've been waiting for the right time. And I finally was like, yeah, there's so much that can be gained from anyone, and I just I'm honored that you're the first male on my podcast, and I'm honored that I get to have this conversation with you and that we have connected through this wonderful universe. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for having me. And remember, everyone is listening. The darkest night always comes for the brightest morning, and your morning is coming.
Thank you, Kwan. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you head over and follow Kawan Glover at Instagram, Natural Wellness Tips at Instagram for me. Come say hi to us. Let us know what resonated with you out of this conversation. Let's connect. Let's chat. Wherever you are, if you're on YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, leave a review. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. And we will catch you guys on the next podcast. Until then, namaste.